Hello, welcome to the Friday group distance healing. All right, so welcome. Today I want to talk about, before we get into the guided visualization, I want to talk about how a cancerous tumor actually heals. All right, there's something called pseudoprogression. And it's basically where the tumor gets bigger before it gets smaller. And it gets bigger right before, it's actually how it appears when it heals. And this is kind of new. Like, I've been doing this for 15 years, and the oncologists that I've met have said, no, bigger is always worse. That's crazy. And the tumor counts and the tumor markers, they always want them to go down, 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 down. But I've met people that have healed from cancer naturally, and they've all told me that there was a little bit of swelling. If it wasn't like a blood tumor, like leukemia or something, that if it was a solid tumor, that it actually swelled as part of the healing process. And that was certainly how Bengston's mice did it. They would be injected with cancer, so no tumor. They would be injected, the tumor would grow, and then it would implode and then get better. It seemed that in order to heal the cancer that had been injected in them, the tumor had to be created. And then as the tumor, anyway, on a regular person, like not a mouse, what happens is that as the tumor's healing, it gets a little softer. It's still hard, but it starts getting gushy in parts where it used to not be gushy. And this is always a really hard thing to manage because the tumor is growing. It's literally growing. And, you know, it's lethal. And so you want to make sure you're doing the right thing. And you don't want to be all positive thinking about it if you really need to go do something more aggressive that would save your life. And I agree. And I feel like one of the functions I have in life is my clinical experience with this particular part of tumor growth. So, you know, you can just imagine what the panic that happens when your tumor's growing. You know, you're doing the Bengston Method, you're doing energy healing, you're feeling better, you're pooping better, you're sleeping better, your digestion's better, you forgave your mother, you're all these signs of healing, you're so optimistic, and then your tumor friggin' gets bigger. Like you get a scan or you can just feel it and it's bigger. And that's very, very, very scary. And I have a lot of respect for that fear because sometimes it's getting bigger because it's healing and sometimes it's getting bigger because it's not healing. And how to tell the difference. So if you talk to your doctor, in immunotherapy, this pseudo-progression, so a fake progression of cancer, is sometimes seen. So it's not just the crazy energy healers that see this. It's actually a thing that's nicely documented now. So you can actually have a conversation about it with your doctor. And it's a hard call. It's a hard call, even for me. So just to let you know how I work with it is I always encourage getting the doctors involved. Like, this is important. Let's get a team of people. Let's get different points of view on this. And then the next thing is to think about, is the tumor getting gushier? Because if it's, usually tumors get bigger and harder, or they just stay hard and get bigger. It's like tumors are hard. Like, I didn't know that when I first started working with cancer. I didn't really know that. So, and most people that have cancer don't know that. They don't know that tumors are hard. So when they suddenly start getting gushy, they don't know that that's a very, very, very good sign of healing. And the test I have, which of course I don't want people to go to the bank on, but you can like put it in the hopper of all the data that's available to you, is, are you acting? Do you feel, so you're there, you got your tumor, it's growing. Do you feel like you're a healing mouse or do you feel like you're a dying mouse? So usually when mice are injected with cancer, the tumors grow and they start getting lethargic. They lose their appetite. They start laying around. The tumor grows and grows and grows, and then they die, usually like within 20 days. When Bengston was doing his mouse research, he injected the mice with cancer, or somebody did, and then he started working with them, and the tumor grew. And he says, oh, I guess it didn't work. Because you'd think that if you're healing them, the tumor wouldn't grow, right? But what if the tumor was actually part of the healing response? So that's a nice little shift to kind of think of. And so he would think about, but instead of getting all withery and lethargic and losing their appetite, these mice had huge tumors, but they were still running around, scampering on their wheels, little mouse wheels in their little cages, and basically not acting very sick. And believe it or not, if you have a tumor that's growing and all inside you feels better, like your digestion's working better, you just feel more like you, that's not a subtle thing, and that's not nothing. And that's not physical. All right, you would think of it more as a life force thing, where you're just feeling like your body's operating better. In spite of this tumor growing, other things seem to be functioning better, and that's observable. So you're not making it up. And I think it's important. And I think it's to be put into the mix, because it might give you the courage to wait a little bit. It's so important to be careful about all this, but you just put it into the hopper and you that. There can also be some emotional things that say you're getting better. And I don't trust these as much, just because the tendency to want to be positive and to interpret anything as a healing response when you're actually just terrified that you're going to die, is just really human nature. It doesn't mean you're a bad person if you do that, but it's like I don't trust the emotional highs of, oh, I'm getting better and I feel it. I don't trust that as much as I do the peeing and the pooping and the sleeping and the unconscious processes that you really, you just feel like a healthier person. All right. And the same goes for spiritual ideas and shifts, because as you're healing, you do get emotional healing. Like you do forgive your mother, or you do, I don't know, suddenly feel unblocked in your relationship to the divine, and suddenly you feel like the divine, like God has your back instead of you just being all alone. Like you'll have a spiritual experience. Does that mean that your tumor's getting better and you should live? Maybe. And the trick here is that these things can happen as spiritual healing can happen without physical healing. However, physical healing almost always includes some spiritual healing. So it's necessary but not sufficient. It's not, you can't take it to the bank and say, okay, I suddenly found peace with my maker, and I no longer feel cut off. I now feel somehow connected to life in a very beautiful, beautiful way. That's lovely. I like it that happened for you. That's often happens to people. And if you also have the life force changes where you're feeling healthier, then I'm more enthusiastic about, watching and, delaying super aggressive treatments. And this is all, you have to like talk to your oncologist. And this is the other thing I help my clients do, is you talk to your oncologist, like you don't do something stupid. So you look at the possible benefits of waiting and seeing if this is a healing response and the possible risks. And it might be that this type of tumor, you could wait a month and watch it, or 6 months, or 6 days. It depends. And that's why you want to talk to your doctor, because they have the clinical experience with these things. Now, legally, they're in a bind, which is why I like to recommend people go into hospice, even if they hardly don't even need it, because the doctors there are not bound by the protocols. They can actually just do the doctoring. Not that oncologists don't do great doctoring, but if they don't recommend the standard of care, they can lose their license. Whereas hospice doctors don't have to do that, so they can just use their tremendous experience, having watched a lot of people go through the cancer process of what they actually think is happening. So I like that too. I kind of like snuck that little hospice plug in there. And it's one of the reasons why people live longer in hospice, I think, is that the politics are different. It's really all about supporting the person. And then you graduate and you don't have to, it's not about going there to die, it's going there to get support for a life-threatening diagnosis. All right, so that's my little thing about tumors growing. Now, there's some people in this audience who've cured themselves of cancer. And I'm wondering if you want to chime in the chat about the quality of the tumor changing and how you interpreted that as a healing response, or, oh, we got to do something about this response. I'd love you to share that. And even Greg, your sweet wife, who lived 14 years with something that should have killed her in just a few years, I'm wondering if the quality of her tumors were indications of hope, or like, oh, she's getting better, or oh, she's getting worse. If you feel comfortable sharing that, I would love it. And if you feel like sharing it with me privately, if you don't want it all over Facebook, that's good too. So, yeah. All right, so now we're going to go into the actual healing portion of this video. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you're welcome to join us over on Facebook. I try to create a little container that you actually have to join. YouTube, you can sort of bump into the video with an algorithm. But the Facebook, you have to actually join Facebook and be admitted into the group. This creates a more sacred space that, because you volitionally had to take an action that put you in a place where you could do the guided visualization. So it's not that I want to limit its accessibility, it's that I want it to work. And I know that when we do these deeds, that's one of the things that helps distance healing work.